So we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is I'm calling this a diagonal lidded cube box, and it perfectly fits a Ferrero Rocher. Its measurements are 1.5 inches on all dimensions, and I'm going to go ahead and open it so you can see the inside. Got a little punch out here so that it's easy to open, and then it perfectly fits a Ferrero Rocher. Super cute. I love this project. So there's been a couple demonstrators that I was inspired by, and I cannot remember their names right now off the top of my head. I'm so sorry about that. But they will be in my blog post. So just to let you know, tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Eastern, I will be posting all the details about this project as well as the live video that we're recording right now. And I will also include the demonstrators that I was inspired by. So we've got a really cool flower here on the top, and I'm going to really quickly grab some spritzer. So this is kind of a neat trick with rubbing alcohol. So I'm doing this first because I want this to dry in time to adhere the box. So I'm going to go ahead and use, let's see. I'm looking for my pansy punch. Here it is, right in front of me. So this is our pansy punch, and I'm going to punch out just 2 flowers. And all I'm really going to do is to take, this is our Stampin' Spritzers. It comes 2 to a pack for a couple bucks, I think. I can't remember, but I've got one filled with water, one filled with rubbing alcohol. This one has rubbing alcohol, and so I'm just going to spritz, and I'm going to do real quickly here, but so I don't mess up my mat. Actually, that's okay. It's not hitting my mat. There we go. I'm just lightly spraying both sides, and while I do that, I'm going to then go ahead and crinkle this flower up. Now, you can certainly use water. Water will just take a little bit longer to dry. So I'm just going to leave that all wrinkled and set that off to the side to dry. Let's go ahead and do the second one. We're also hand sanitizing at the same time. So, all right. So I spritz that with rubbing alcohol, kind of let the rubbing alcohol soak into the fibers of the paper. You do want to be a little bit gentle because it's pretty easy to rip the paper when you scrunch it up like this. Another spritz you can use is your Stampin' Mist. And this has a little bit of a perfumey smell to it, so your flowers will smell a little perfumey. But so yeah, water, rubbing alcohol, or Stampin' Mist works great. So I'm going to go ahead and dry off my hands. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this little project up here to the side. And we are working with 2 different pieces of paper. We're going to do the outside first. This is a pattern from the Delightful Daisy Designer Series paper, and it measures 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And as you can tell, this has a little bit of a directional pattern. You'll want your up and down direction to be along the 4.5 inch side. Now, as you'll see, this is the front of the box here. This is going the right direction. You will have some sideways patterns along the side. There's just no way to avoid that. So 4.5 by 6.5. And I'm actually not going to use this simply scored today because we're going to be doing some pretty very specific measurements when we get to the inside piece. But we are going to, on the 4.5 inch side, score it. And let me remind you again, all of these dimensions and measurements will be on my blog post that will go live tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. So no need to scramble to write these down now. First score line at 1.5 inches. Always make sure that you're using the right scoring blade. So I always say the scoring is the lighter colored versus the darker colored, which will cut. 1.5 and 3 inches. Then we're going to rotate and score it at 1.5, 3, 4.5, and 6. Okay, now you're not really going to be able to see those score lines very well in this video. I will show you a template here in just a minute. Now what we're going to do, and actually let me show you the template now. This is going to look totally crazy. I recognize that. But we are essentially, first thing we're going to do is cut up all You guys can probably hear my dog Kona right now chugging water. So if you ever hear any background noise, it's always my doggies. I've got a chocolate lab and a golden retriever, and they're helping themselves to the water. They sound like a horse at a trough. So we're going to cut up all these side score lines on both sides, okay? I know this is crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paper snips. Thanks everybody for joining. And I'm just cutting up those score lines to this vertical score line. I'm going to do that on both sides. Oh boy, my doggies are thirsty. See, this is what I love about live. Welcome to my home. Ooh. Kona, go lie down, sweetie. All right, so we've cut up all of those score lines. Let's see, I don't think you're really going to be able to see very well on either side. But essentially, we've just done these score lines along the side. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting away at things a little bit. First, I want to fold and burnish on these score lines, and hopefully we'll be able to see it a little bit better. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. I am keeping my eye on comments rolling through. And if I miss a question, I apologize, but I will certainly reply to it after the live broadcast. And for those of you that have recently joined, here's what we're putting together, this cute little Ferrero Rocher treat box. All right, so this is the way that I found it to be pretty easy. We're going to be cutting away and creating these tabs here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm folding back. Let's see. All right, do you see that I folded back 2 of those tabs, just those 2 in the center? And I'm going to, let's see, line this up at the 1-inch mark, and I'm lining it up here over here on the right side. I'm just going to cut to give me those uniform tab sizes, okay? I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So we are folding back the pieces that we don't want to cut, lining this right edge up to the 1-inch mark. And you can certainly eyeball these as well, cutting the tabs, but you'll see why I'm doing this in the next step where we cut away the diagonal sides. All right. So now I'm going to show you, here's what we're creating. So this is ultimately, we're starting from this and we're going to come up with this. I'm going to cut these diagonal sides here. And the trick to that, let me turn it this way if it makes more sense, is I am cutting from this corner here down to where that tab meets up with this side. So it's basically, this is a 1/2 inch. We're cutting from the corner to the 1/2 inch mark. And what I find is easiest is to use a large pair of scissors here because it allows you to make one cut in a straight line. All right. So again, I'm cutting corner right to where that tab meets up. See where it's lining up there? So we're going to go ahead and do that to all 4 of those longer sides that are sticking out. Okay, same thing over here. This does not have to be perfect. Again, this is a handmade item, so we're just trying to get in the vicinity. There we go. Let me get rid of these paper scraps. So this is what our piece looks like. I don't even know what shape you would call that. It's an interesting shape. All right. So the last thing we're going to do to finish this off before we put it together is we're just going to notch in all of our tabs. That just gives us a really nice square finish when we glue everything together. So I'm just going to grab my paper snips and do that really quickly. No, there's no method to this other than you're just trying to notch in a little bit. And it's just on these little skinny 1/2 inch tabs. I had jury duty this morning, and luckily there were 18 jurors called for the first judge, and there were 2 more judges to go, but they both didn't need jurors today, so I got to go home after a few hours, which I was happy about, as I was worried about our Facebook Live together tonight. I wanted to make sure I was ready for y'all. Okay. So there we go. Now we can start to glue. So I just want to show you, here's the project. We have like this little 1/2 inch front panel here, and that is going to end up being this piece here. Okay, so let's go ahead. My glue of choice is the liquid multi-purpose. It is my favorite glue for stuff like this because it kind of lets me move things around well just before it adheres. So I'm just putting a light amount of glue on that tab, and we're meeting up this score line with this edge. We're going to do that on the other side as well. Okay, so next we're going to adhere these tabs inside. Let's see if I can show you what that looks like. We're gluing them like this. Yeah, the original project that inspired me was by a fellow German demonstrator. I know her first name's Isabella. Cannot think of her last name right now. That info will be in the blog post for tomorrow. And of course her video tutorial was in German, so I had fun figuring that one out. And her measurements were in metric. So I tweaked them to come up with measurements in inches to fit this Ferrero Rocher. All right, so I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's this little excess paper right here. We're just going to take our paper snips and just trim that off. Clean it up. All right, so the bottom part of the box, of the outside part of the box is done. Now the next thing we're going to do are these last set of tabs, and we are going to adhere those like this, okay? Okay, and then the last tab. And again, we'll have a little bit of excess here, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. All right. So the last thing we're going to do on the outside of this box is we're going to put a little tab or a little like finger hole so that it makes it easy to open and close the box. And I just used the 1/2 inch circle punch, and we're just going to, I'm just kind of eyeballing it and going up not quite halfway, but just enough to make that little indent there, okay? So that's the outside of our box, super cute. Now for the inside, this is where we had to get the more specific measurements, okay? So I'm using Daffodil Delight because it is a coordinating color with the Delightful Daisy Designer Series paper, and there's a little hint of Daffodil Delight on the inside. So I'm going to bring back my Stampin' Trimmer, and I'm sorry about all the noise. I've got my extra blades and things on the bottom there. Okay, so we are going to score this. Well, let me first say this measures 4 5/16. I don't work in 16th inch increments very often. So it's 4 5/16 by 4 5/16. It's a square. So we're going to go ahead and score this at 1 7/16, which is just a 16th before 1 1/2. So that is so that this will fit inside a 1 1/2 inch cube. Okay, so just a 16th smaller. And it's just easier to remember that one measurement, 1 7/16. And we're gonna score it on all 4 sides that way. Okay. Now next I'm going to fold and burnish so I can see my score lines. Okay, so all the score lines, and then we're going to cut up from the edge, this vertical score line up to the horizontal score line. So these two, and then I'm going to turn it all the way around 180 degrees and do the same thing on the other side. Again, all of these measurements, dimensions, and I'll do pictures of the little templates. Those will all be on my blog post tomorrow. Okay, so this is the piece we're working with. We have cut up these edges, and we're going to also cut away again, okay? So I'm going to bring back the Stampin' Trimmer, and again, very similar, I'm going to fold this inside backwards, line up that right edge to 1 inch, and cut. That's going to give us our little tabs. Okay, and do the same thing on the other side. That's just going to give us those little tabs. And then again, we're going to notch those out. Oops, that one I missed. There we go. All right, making a mess here with all these little paper pieces. Now this one's very easy. We are literally just adhering the tabbed sides into the center there. Okay, so liquid glue again. And just do 1 tab at a time. And again, I'm meeting up this cut edge with this corner score line. And obviously this fits a Ferrero Rocher, but you could put so many fun things inside this box. Maybe a handful of Hershey's Kisses or something like that, or jewelry. That would be so cute. All right. So there's our little box. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to stamp. See, this is live, folks. All right, so we're gonna pretend, or we're gonna hope that this works. Normally you should stamp before you put the box together. So, and you're gonna laugh, I did the same thing on this box, but it kind of stamped, so I'm gonna ink this up. This comes from this awesome stamp set, Beautiful Bouquet. This also comes with a coordinating set of framelits, and just you can make so many different gorgeous bouquets out of this, but I love the fonts and I love the sentiments, and we're using the sentiment Thanks a Bunch. So that's Beautiful Bouquet. And we're using Night of Navy ink, which coordinates with the Delightful Daisy designer series paper. All right, let's see. I'm gonna put my fingers under here. We're improvising, folks, okay? All right, putting this as close to the top as I can. Using my fingers as some pressure there. Oh, I hope this works. Sort of. Good enough for live video, right? Okay, so we did that, and then you'll see that this fits right inside like a glove. Now, you don't have to use adhesive. I'm going to in this instance. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom. Press that into the bottom of my box. And then use my glue bottle as a tool here and just press down to have that adhesive adhere. So cute. Okay, so let's put in our chocolate, a Ferrero Rocher, and close that up. And then we're going to go ahead and decorate the outside of our box. So another coordinating item with this suite of products is the Daffodil Delight double stitched, let's see if I can remember, double stitched ribbon. I was close. I'm just going to tie a bow or a knot around the front. Okay, trim off the ends there. Oops. All right, so there's a little bow on the front, and now let's see what our little crumpled up pieces of flower look like. They do feel pretty dry. They could probably dry a little bit longer, but good enough. And I'm just going to layer those with some Stampin' Dimensionals to give them some dimension. All right, so we'll put one in the center there. And then I'm just offsetting those petals. Then I'll put one on the back side. That's what how we'll stick these to the top of the box. And I picked the pansy punch and scrunched it up because it kind of looks like the flowers that are on the designer series paper. That is one of the things I love the most about Stampin' Up! Is coordination, and I'm always tickled when I find some coordination that I didn't expect to happen, like a happy accident there. All right, so then to top it off, we're going to use a clear faceted gem. I love these for the center of flowers. My trusty paper piercer. I'm going to pick that up, stick that right in the center of the flower. And voila, there's our diagonal lidded cube box that perfectly holds a Ferrero Rocher. What do you think? Really sweet box. I know there's lots of dimensions and score lines and things to cut away. Hopefully these templates help a little bit. I know that I am a little technically challenged. I will try to figure out how to make these in a digital format so they're easier to see, but I will have pictures of these up on the blog. More than likely, well, I guess I'll probably do pictures of all of them, but so we'll have those pictures of those up on my blog tomorrow, all the dimensions, measurements, and then a shortened and higher quality version of this video as well, so you can watch it again tomorrow. And I appreciate all of you joining me today. I'd love to have you come visit me at thepaperpixie.com, where I post projects for you weekdays to inspire you. I also have a YouTube channel. I try to post 2 to 3 videos per week. I do love doing tutorials for you, so I'd love to have you visit me at my YouTube channel. There's a link to that on my blog in the upper right corner, and I'd love for you to subscribe if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Y'all have a wonderful and blessed day. Take care. Bye.